Welcome to Personality Speaking, where the tea is always hot. My show is dedicated to helping you build healthier, stronger relationships through the understanding of the personalities. This show airs every Wednesday night live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want more content like this, you have to subscribe, you have to share, you have to comment so that you can get, and also you have to ring that notification bell so you can get the latest episodes of Personality Speaking. In case you don't know me, my name is Karen Ward. I'm an advanced certified personality trainer and speaker. I'm the author of the book, Couple for Life, Overcoming Personality Differences in Marriage, and I'm a personality coach, helping you through some of the difficult times that you may be having in your life. Now, this show focuses on the 4 personality styles that was developed by the late Florence Littauer, who wrote many, many books on the topic. But it talks about the 4 personality styles: the popular Sanguine, which is the outgoing, bubbly personality style that's also very forgetful and kind of flighty. And it's the powerful Choleric, which is the born leader, the mover, the shaker, that gets more things done in the morning than most people get done all day, but it's also very controlling and domineering. And just before I move on to the introverts, the Sanguine is my primary, the Choleric is my secondary, and Sundra is the Choleric primary. And then we're going to get into the introverted personality styles. The perfect Melancholy, which is a deep thinker, highly intelligent, but also can be kind of moody and critical and judgmental. That's Sundra's secondary. And then the 4th and final personality style, which is also an introverted personality style, is the peaceful Phlegmatic. Cool, calm, collected, chill personality, but uninvolved, disinterested. Those are the personality styles. Just a brief overview. If you want to know more about the personality styles, you can go to my website, Beyond Two. It's right here behind me, BEYONDTWOLLC.com, to learn more about the personalities or to book me so you can add a little personality to your next event. I want to introduce my sister, Dr. Sundra Ryce Hardy. This is my friend. She's my sister from another mister. We met from a very close friend of ours who went on to glory in November of last year, Dr. Celeste Owens. A lot of the people who follow me know who Dr. Owens is. She actually helped me to catapult what I do with the personalities and spread it to the masses. It was because of her that I'm here today, and we together honor her. And it's because of her that I met Sundra. And Sundra and I have become fast friends because of it, and sisters in Christ. And I just want to welcome you, sister, to Personality Speaking.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And we do honor our dear sister and friend, Dr. Celeste. She's been on my mind all day today. I've been drinking out of my mug, Surrendered for Life. This is one of the last things she gave me when we did a show together about a year and a half ago. And she gave me this when we were taping the show together. I was on her show, and it was just amazing. So I've just been remembering her all day. So I'm so glad that you brought her up, because she is, the reason why we met. Yes.
And I think, I don't know about you, but for me, my ministry, my business, everything has changed because of that relationship, right? But also, she connected us with so many different people from so many different walks of life, doing some amazing things. I will always be forever grateful for all the divine connections, and you being one of them.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Sandra, kind of give everybody a little taste of your background.
Okay, yes. So my background is pretty diverse. I started out, and still do it. I'm a real estate development consultant, real estate developer. I started out as a general construction leader in general construction in the field of building and all things building for 25 years. Probably the last 10 years, I've really moved also into the leadership development space. I have my doctorate in organizational leadership. And I did a whole dissertation on leadership burnout, because I saw so many of my colleagues, as I'm building and growing a big business, on the cover of Black Enterprise and in all the fabulous magazines. And I was once the burned out leader. And so when that opportunity came and God opened the door, he was like, I really want you to be a spokesperson for leadership wellness, because so many of us really need to just take a moment and breathe, a Selah in the Bible. That's just a pause to say, you know what? I need to rest. I need to pull back. I need to make sure that my well-being is is taken care of first so that I can lead others. And so that's a little bit of my background, being a CEO in the general construction field, construction management field. I still do that. And I also do a lot of leadership development work, and many doors have opened with that, with our programs that we have, our signature programs, our programs with Pepperdine University. It's exciting. And we really talk about all things leadership innovation, leadership well-being, and really who takes care of the leader that takes care of everybody else. And that's the premise of the work that we do in my companies. Who takes care of the leader that takes care of everybody else? Because without us, where is the company? Where is the business? Right. Where is the ministry? And so we want to make sure that we're healthy and whole. And as Dr. Celeste always said, we are excelling and we're leading well.
I love that. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm glad you brought that up because it is so important. We talked about self-care the last time you was with me. We talked about self-care. And I think what's important is if you look at the personalities and the 4 personalities, the choleric is a born leader. That is your primary, right? And so because you are a born leader, what you seek to do is to accomplish all that comes before you. So if you get something, whatever the project is, whatever the assignment is, you're going to make sure you excel in that area. And so that's an easy personality to get burnt out. It's because I said that choleric gets more things done in the morning than most of us get done all day, or in the morning that we get done all week.
That's true. That's true.
And the melancholy is another personality style, which is your secondary. That's always planning and making sure that all their time is purposeful. So they don't waste time. Everything's about getting things accomplished or executing the plan, right?
Excellent. Yes.
So those 2 personalities can easily get burnt out. And so I can see why God would call you to do something in the area of self-care and helping the leaders to be able to kind of, like you say, do a Selah and pause and just regroup and be able to become a better leader. Mm-hmm. I always hear that phrase that says, when you get on an airplane, put your mask on first. What was that? I heard a loud noise. Put your mask on first before you put the mask on someone else, because if you pass out, you can't help anybody else. And so that's the same thing in leadership. If you are run down and beat up, you can't help anybody else. So Thank you for sharing that. You are a boss, and that's before the word boss became boss. Are you hearing that, or is that me just hearing it?
No, I'm hearing it too.
It's a loud, I don't know, it's a loud noise. Anyway, but devil's a lie, the truth ain't in him. Let's just move on. So today we're going to really be talking about a topic that's exciting to me. It's embracing differences. It's celebrating personality differences, right? And you're right, Michelle, Selahs are good. Pausing is good. Welcome, Michelle. Welcome, Catherine, to the podcast. But we're going to be talking about embracing differences. And I just think it's such an important topic because for so many of us, sometimes we see difference as bad, right? And so I want to know from you, why do you think it is important for individuals in this society to embrace and celebrate their diverse personalities? Because I think, it's something that we all need to really look at and really examine.
Yeah, well, we all have different personalities. And I just want to actually talk about the choleric personality for 1 second, because a lot of the leaders that we deal with, a lot of us who are bosses, who are leading great businesses, a lot of the high level leaders that I work with and deal with every day, and that we all work with and deal with every day, have that choleric personality. Now, they may have something else, but they
Yes.
generally have that personality. And so, yes, that personality is the one that's working. We're going to make sure it happens. We're going to make sure things are gone. Yes, by 7 o'clock, yeah, we have most things done, and some people are just yawning. I don't know. But, it's important. Time is important. Purpose. We are very purposeful people. Those of us who are, especially those of us who are in the marketplace and who are in business and ministry as well, we are very purposeful because that's important for what we do. It's important. It's an important asset to who we are. So that personality is generally a choleric in some way. So it is important for us to understand the personality. And also being a choleric and being a boss, it's important to understand the differences, especially if you have a team, when you're working with people, when you're working with, amazing people. It's important to understand everybody else's personality as well, so that you can be effective in what you do, so that you can continue growing, so you can continue, building. And we are different. Everybody is different. I think about all of my beautiful colleagues and, family and all those things, people in business, people in ministry, a lot of people that I know. Everybody is different. So it behooves us to really learn and understand. That's why I love the work that you do, each other's personality, so that we can value, because there's so much that's happening in the world now. There's so much, dissension, disappointment. There's so much offense that happens. People they say we live in an offended culture.
Yes.
So things are always happening where, somebody says something, you're like, oh, I'm offended, and sometimes it could just be a personality issue. It can just be understanding. Right. But instead of living like that, I believe that we are meant to have peace and well-being. And that's a part of understanding people and celebrating people and celebrating their differences, and knowing that there is a variety of people who come with different, different opinions, different cultures. And that's what can cause us to grow and give us, more possibilities in life and in business and in ministry.
Yeah. I think that's important too. And I think what's also important, I'm glad you talked about the choleric, because what I think happens a lot in business, in ministry, in relationships, is that you have a personality style, and that's the lens by which you view the world, right? Yes. It's through your personality lens. And so most people expect other people to see things exactly the same way they see it.
Yeah.
It's almost inevitable that happens, right? And so as I do personality workshops, I'm always trying to show how everybody has a part to play. We all bring something to the table, right? And so how do we utilize the strengths of each of the personalities to get the job done? And we have to stop looking at through our own lens and try to understand the lens of others. Do you agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. And again, we do have a question, so I'm going to go back to that. We do have a question. So while I'm answering that, Karen, if you can look at Michelle's question. But yeah, I think we're always looking at diversity. We're always looking at how can we celebrate people. And when you celebrate something, that means you recognize it. You take the time out to kind of step back and to observe and to honor. And I don't think we do enough of that, Karen, as people and personalities. And our personalities make up who we are as people. And I'm guilty of that too, especially as a choleric, melancholy, because I'm getting things done. I'm moving. I can move all of you out of the way in 1 second so I can get it done. And, sometimes I have to really work on observing. I have to work on that in my marriage. I have to work on that in my businesses and my ministry, because, I'm just getting it done. And you can't push people and their other personalities out of the way, just getting it done, because it's so important that we all work together.
Yeah,
we celebrate each other, and that's recognizing, seeing that person, having that intimacy with people, and into me, see me.
Yes, and I think that's so important, is that people need to be heard and need to be seen. But the introverted personalities tend to sit back and not really say a lot, and they get offended very easily because they don't say a lot. Now, Michelle asked the question, do you recommend a work team take personality traits, assessment? Absolutely. Absolutely, because it helps you to really understand yourself first, because that's what you have to start with, yourself. understanding how you're wired. And then you can understand how other people are wired. Now, how can we work together? Wait a minute, she finishes, I think she does this a little bit more. Recommend teams take personality tests so that they can better understand. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm developing a training right now for um, a military group that they need to understand how to develop relationships within their own teams and then how to collaborate outside of their teams. So I'm working on that. And I think it's really critical when people really truly understand who they are so that they can actually build better, healthier relationships with each other.
Yes.
Some of the keys I think that you brought up, Sundra, in your statement just a minute ago, is that we have to be able to, people have to feel like they're being seen and heard. And cholerics have a tendency to not be really people oriented. They're task oriented. They're job oriented. They're accomplishment oriented. They're not people oriented. So sometimes they have to pull back and recognize that's me. And I have to allow people to be how they're wired and allow them to operate the way they're wired and contribute to the team.
Right.
So anyway,
and that's why
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important, and that's why it's important to even understand. So even your team understanding. So not only you, Michelle, taking personality tests. I do this with my team, and we've taken different personality tests so we can see how well we work together, how we work together. So there are different personality tests out there, and I love Karen's. I'm a proponent of hers as well. But even for example, I'm choleric, so it's important that everybody that's in the relationship with me or everybody that knows me knows just what you said, so that they won't be offended, Karen, because that's how I'm wired. So whether it's in my marriage or whether it's in my relationship with close friends or my family or my sisters or whoever it is, if they understand, you know what, that is how she is wired. She's not really overlooking me. She's not trying to, stomp on me. I think Roz had something good. Roz said, I'm guilty of making it happen and possibly putting undue pressure on others because of my own lens. And when we do that, sometimes that's just who we are. So those personality tests are important when you're dealing with teams. Again, I do it. I recommend it because you need to understand your team, and they also need to understand you, whoever that team is, like it's personally or professionally.
Absolutely. Now, the extroverted personality styles tend to kind of crush the introverted personalities, okay, or crush them. And I say that, and I say touche too, Roz, because that's me also. But I say that because cholerics are a matter of fact. They have a very authoritative tone. They don't really mean anything by what they're saying. They're asking a question. It may come off as harsh and curt and abrasive, but it really isn't. They're just asking a question. They're trying to get to a point. They're trying to get you to get to a point, right? The sanguines, we have no filter from our brains to our mouths. So we think it, we say it. And it's like, hello, you need to process that before it came out of your mouth. Do you recognize what you said? So we tend to hurt people's feelings and not even recognize that we're hurting somebody's feelings, right? And the introverts, the melancholy and the phlegmatic, tend to get their feelings hurt, and the melancholy will do something about it, but it'll be behind the scenes that you'll never know it was them who did it. They'll seek revenge, but the phlegmatic will just lick their wounds and never say anything, and they'll just bury their feelings, and it will impact their self-worth. So every personality, based on how you are wired and how you communicate and how you interact, can impact the other personalities. Cholerics thinks phlegmatics are slow moving and can't get things done, and they are very capable of getting things done. They don't like to be pressured into getting it done.
Right. So it's a difference. So you just said that it's a difference. They still get it done. Phlegmatics we know phlegmatics mimic all the personality styles. So if you're a phlegmatic, that means you can be a choleric at times. You can be a sanguine. You can be the life of the party, and then you can be a boss. You can get it done.
Yes.
So you can be all four of those, but you still get things done, and that's why we need to celebrate, because not one is better than the other. God made us diverse. Diversity is so important in relationships and companies. They have huge diversity programs because we need to learn, and it doesn't always come easily. We
Yeah.
need to learn how to celebrate, how to recognize, how to look at other people, how to honor other people, how to
Right.
observe, how to remember other people and remember that there are differences and then celebrate that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So can you share a personal experience where embracing someone's diverse personality positively impacted your own perspective or understanding?
Hmm. Yeah, I think, for me, when I think about, what I do, so I deal with a lot of amazing, amazing people, amazing projects, especially over the years. And what I have had to learn is that when you step back and you really learn to respect, and that's a word that something I really want to talk about today. When you learn to respect, which is to value something that is different in somebody else, it's not just about honor, or how we know the traditional way, but it's really about how do we value the differences in others. And I
Yeah.
think over the years, for me, my positive takeaway is really being able to say, okay, I'm very self-aware, so because I'm self-aware, I need to be others aware. And when I learned
Mm,
about having empathy and compassion for people who are different from me, it has helped me. And I've tried, I'm saying it globally because I've tried to do that, and I try to do that in my life every day. And I'm being challenged by it now. Actually, it's positively influencing me because I'm being challenged by it now, because I have some people in my life right now who are very different from me. I even
mhm.
live in a different state. So those of you who know me know that I moved to a different state. I'm a New Yorker. So on top of being choleric, I'm a New Yorker, and
Yeah.
I'm now living in the deep, beautiful South.
Yes.
They call it the Bayou. I live in Louisiana, and
Yeah.
so it's very different. And I've this last 2 years, I'm telling you, it's caused me to really grow as a person. I'm still growing. I mean, it's kind of like sometimes in my face because I'm fast paced. I like to move, and it's
Yeah.
very different here. There's a very different movement. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just a
Right.
different movement. People do things differently, and I've had to accept that. And as I'm accepting it, it's helping me as a person to grow, to say, hey, there's something different here. And that helps me when I travel abroad, because when I travel abroad,
Yes.
it's a totally different culture. It's
Yes.
a culture shock. And when I travel abroad, generally I'm there for maybe 10 days or 5 days. And so it helps me positively to accept people,
Mhm.
to move, and to embrace people, and to embrace their differences, and to also grow and in business together, or ministry, or whatever it is that I'm up to.
I love that. And I just remember when we first met and we were going to a healing retreat. You remember this? And my husband and I picked you up, and
Yeah.
we were on 100 with the banter back and forth and back and forth and laughing and joking. And you were sitting in the back, and we stopped by Dr. Celeste's house. And next thing I know, you were riding with her instead of us. And I said, girl, I know we overwhelmed you.
I remember that. Okay, so let me tell you, audience, our fabulous listening audience, Karen and her husband are both sanguine. That they're both choleric sanguine. So they're both bosses, but they're both like happy, lucky. They're talking, they're filling up every space. And I was like in the back seat of their car like 10 years ago, like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
For 2 hours up the road.
I'm not sure if I can do this for 2 hours, because I have an introverted side of my personality as well. So I'm melancholy. So, although I'm extroverted when I'm on stage or doing things, I'm also very introverted where I can be
Yeah.
alone, and I love to be alone. And when I'm not on stage, that time is very important to me. And I remember Karen and her husband they were just filling up every single space and asking me 50 questions. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can answer another question. So I did get in the car with Dr. Celeste and rode with
I
her through
thought
the
that
retreat. It
I
was
thought that
hilarious.
was hilarious. And Celeste
It was
was a
hilarious.
melancholy phlegmatic, so she didn't have to talk at all if she didn't want to. But when I
Exactly.
got there, I said to her, I said, girl, I know why you rode with Celeste.
I remember that. Oh my gosh. Yes, I do.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, that I just thought that was funny. That's one of those kind of things where I was not self-aware I was self-aware, but not others aware. I knew I was a bit much. I knew my husband was more than a bit much, but I wasn't others aware until after you decided you wanted to ride.
And that's the thing. If anybody wants to really look at that, you can really look at the realm of emotional intelligence. And what we call emotional intelligence in leadership is the sine qua non of leadership. In other words, it's the essential ingredient to really look at and understand not only yourself, but
Yes.
others. And so
Yeah.
if you want to do a kind of look at that, do a study on that, that is a great place to start. And then I see that Michelle has a question too.
Yes. Michelle's question is there a benefit to taking a personality traits test versus a strengths finders test? Michelle, there's benefits in both.
Yeah.
I know somebody who actually teaches the uses the strengths finders assessment and teaches stuff on positivity. So there's benefits in that. But I also believe that you need to understand where you have areas of opportunity. Because a lot of us don't pay attention to the areas of opportunity that we have. We always want to pay attention to other people's areas of opportunity instead of our own. And I think part of what this assessment does is allow you to see your strengths and your areas of opportunity, so that you can grow in those areas. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah. And I do it all. You know what? I actually, because they're so important for me, again,
Yeah.
my own self-awareness and what I'm up to every day, I do like to understand and have a great understanding of what I do. So I do strength finders too, Michelle. I have strength finders. I know what my strengths are. I know I'm connectedness. I know I'm futuristic. I know all, and then also the other personality tests. So I think they all work. But we love
Yeah.
Karen's personality test too, so make sure you work with her on that one.
Yeah, I think that you can learn a lot from it, but it's interesting because people ask me all the time, why is what you do different than any of the others, Myers-Briggs or anything else? And I think a lot of them will tell you your personality traits, your weakness or whatever. It may give you some indicator about other people. But what I do is I try to make sure you understand not only yourself, but other people so that you can really build a stronger relationship on your work team, in your relationship, parenting children, your parents, whatever it is, your family members, your family dynamics. I try to make sure that you can build understanding, because I think it is the crux of all disagreements is misunderstanding, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. And understanding the fact that, because I was just saying, I believe that at the crux of all conflict is misunderstanding. Most conflict is misunderstanding. I mean, there's some conflict that has nothing to do with misunderstanding, but a lot of it has to do with misunderstanding. People thinking one thing, you said that, I said this, that kind of thing, right? So, in your opinion, what do you think about how personality plays a part in misunderstanding? What's your thoughts about that?
I heard something today that was interesting. They called it the Oprah rule. I had never heard this before like this, but I don't know if you've all heard this, but it said that people don't remember things the way they happened. We remember mostly the impact or the intensity of something that happened, and we remember how it ends. But we don't always remember how things. Isn't that interesting? So I've never heard
That's
of
so
like
true.
Oprah rule.
That is so true,
Yeah.
because when you get the two people in the room, they're both telling a whole different story.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a study at Harvard that I want to mention. It's the Negotiation Project. And there's a book by William Ury, Ury, and some of you may know it. It's called Getting to Yes. And it's, like you said, everything is a negotiation in life. If you think about it, we're always negotiating all day from the time we get up. If you have children or if you have friends, marriage, co-workers, you have staff, you're always negotiating. And this is a great book to have in your library as a leader, as a boss, as a person who is up to big things, as a person who makes decisions for life. It's called Getting to Yes. And the whole thought about it is, how do we negotiate and get to agreement without giving in? So how do we make sure it's a win-win? So for me,
Yes.
one of my key things in business and life, and this is a practice too. There's some, some areas I still have to work on that. For me, it's a win-win or no deal.
I
Win-win or
love
no
it.
deal.
Oh,
So how
that's
do we get, isn't that powerful?
well,
How do we
it's
get
so
to a
powerful.
win-win?
It's so powerful that because for me, it's such a high level of integrity when
Yes.
you're thinking about it that way. I actually bought a deep fryer for an event that I was doing, and the person had a price that they had for the deep fryer, and they had already dropped the price, maybe $10 or something like that. And so I went on the site, and it says send a request for, send your bid. And so when I clicked on send your bid, it says um 10% less than what they're asking for. It says the price they're asking for, or like 20% more less than or 10% more than they're asking for, or something like that. And when I went to get the product, I thought to myself, this is a fair price. I'm not going to ask for 10% less. It's a fair price. It's a win-win. I get what I want at the fair price. I'm not going to ask for less, because that really troubled me to even think about asking for less just because I could,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
a win-win.
Yeah. And that's important. So how do we negotiate in life? How do we get to, what's the strategy for really arriving at a mutually acceptable agreement in which everybody wins? Okay. Because it's something in every conflict. When you're negotiating, there's a conflict in that. So one of the steps in getting to yes and getting to that is really like, how do we separate people from the problem, right? How do we
Mhm.
separate? And we can think about personality. So if there's a conflict, how do we separate the personality from that and understand it? And then how do we understand where the person is coming from? Because when you're negotiating, when you're trying to get to yes with someone, in business, in marriage, and in life, and coworkers, how do we really understand, and how and in what ways do we understand where that person is coming from? Are we really observing? Are we really celebrating where that person is coming from when we're in conflict? Are we really looking for a win-win? How do
Yes.
we create options so that both parties can gain? And as
I
a
love
leader,
this.
as a person, that's kind of our
Yes.
responsibility when you're celebrating
Yes.
differences and celebrating personalities. And I'm telling you, I'm in the midst of this now. I live in this world. So I live
Yeah.
in a world where, and we all do, where conflict arises every day. And
Every day.
you have to figure out, how do I get to yes? And even when I was preparing for this and looking at things, Karen, that came up for me like, yeah, how do I get to yes? And I'm used to doing it in business. How do I do it in all relationships? How do I do it in new
Yes.
relationships? How do I
Yes.
do it so that everybody can win? We all win. We all take away the white flag.
I love that. And I'm going to tell you something. I was going to say to you that that's great in leadership, but that is so awesome in our personal relationships as well. Because when I coach my clients, the one thing I always tell them is that you're trying to fight each other, and you should be looking at the problem and together fighting the problem, right? You should be looking at, how can we tackle this issue? How can we come to resolve? Because if the issue is finances, it's not you spend too much money, you don't make enough money. It's, we need a certain amount of money. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get there together? If we're spending too much money, how are we going to budget together? All of that is about attacking the problem and not each other.
Yeah.
So what you're saying there is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It's saying, that's how we're going to get there together.
Yeah.
Holding hands. I love it.
How do we win when we have a
How do
conflict?
we
And
win?
conflict is not always bad. It's just differences. It is differences. So as we talk about today, how do we celebrate the differences in our personalities? How do we, again, get to yes? How do we get to a win? And I
Yes.
think this is a great discussion. I mean, again, it's helpful for me, and I hope it's helpful for our audience, because we all need to be able to do that and have that skill. And it's a learned skill too. It's a learned skill, because we're all in our personalities. We're in our personalities. We operate in our personalities. We live in our worlds. But God has given us a diverse group of people that we're in relationships with, in business with, that we travel with. And it's it helps us be effective communicators. It helps us to trust. It helps us,
Mhm.
and that's important in business, to trust, and relationships, to trust. It helps us to foster that sense of belonging,
Yes.
and it really helps us to find that place where we are respecting each other.
Yes.
And especially in this world right now, Karen, where there's so much disruption.
Ah,
There's so many
so
things that are turned upside down, inside out, and a lot of us are still trying to figure things out.
that's right. That's so true. And I just love that. So the four personalities, the sanguine personality, their basic desires to have fun, right? And sometimes we take it too far. It's a strength and a weakness. Like we bring the party, every atmosphere we're in, we want people to enjoy themselves and be happy. But sometimes it's a time for work. It's a time for being serious. It's a time for having, being about business. So each personality impacts whether or not you are in or out of conflict, right? The choleric, we know that their basic desires to have control, and it's okay to have control in certain aspects of your life. You want to control your finances, it's fine. You want to control how a project runs, it's fine. But when you try to control people and how they behave or how they operate, it's not fine. The melancholy needs order, right? They strive for perfection, but they need order. And so, unfortunately, if people in their minds is out of order or is not working up to their highest potential according to them, it's a problem, right? The phlegmatic, the cool, calm, collected, they need peace. They need for you to calm down and stop raising your voice. They think all of us talk too loud, us sanguines and us cholerics, and we do. I'm talking loud now. It's so funny when I listen back to myself once. That's all I could listen to on this podcast because I couldn't listen to my loud voice twice. But the phlegmatic needs peace, but they also don't want to really move in a progressive direction unless forced to. So some of those personality differences can really cause a lot of dissension if you don't understand each other. So let's talk a little bit about this because I think, and you think, or I think we've talked about this before. You and I both come from a culture of surrender, right? From our dear sister, Dr. Celeste Owens. She taught us about the surrender fast, to surrender things that is keeping you from having a deeper, more abiding relationship with God, right? She taught us about the art of surrender. All of these are books of hers that she taught us about. And we learned so much through her online teachings and things of that nature. You can still go to her YouTube page, the 40-Day Surrender Fast or the Surrender Network, to hear more about that. But how does surrender play a part in, embracing other people's differences?
Well, surrender is important. And I'm going to show my cup again. We're honoring Dr. Celeste too as we go. My surrender says surrendered, surrender fast, surrender 40, because we do a 40-day fast with her every year. And it says surrendered for 40, transformed for life. So we usually surrender and surrender something for 40 days. And it's usually around this time of year. She passed away last year in November. So this will be our first year that she's not with us doing the fast during this time. But the surrendered life is really a life where, you are willing to, step back and give up. And this is not a bad thing, but give up what you think is right, what you want. It's really a great principle to have of surrender, whether like you're a Christian or not, to
Right.
really be able to say, okay, let me step back, let me surrender what I think, what I feel, so that I can look at what other possibilities are there. Because I think when you can do that, you can see something that you didn't see before.
Yeah.
What else is there? Because there's something else there. There's a whole world that's there. I call it DK. You don't know that you don't know. You don't
Mhm.
know that you don't know. And when you're able to surrender, you're able to kind of give up, even in your personality for,
Yeah.
for a few minutes and get a space in there and you step back, you get a space to see something different, to expand, to expect something different. So surrender is just really, that stepping back and looking at how and in what ways do I, let go of what I think, what I feel at this moment so that I can receive something else, so that I can hear something else, so that I can experience something else, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. So, I always do this little thing. I do a little slide presentation thing that kind of breaks things down a little bit about, surrendering our personality differences. And I kind of want to be able to do this. Let me take this off here real fast. To talk a little bit about what we can do to surrender some of those differences that keeps us from having the kind of relationships we want with people in business, in ministry, in our own personal relationship. First, you need to observe and learn. You pay attention to your unique traits and the unique traits of others, right? Um, and the unique tendencies that each personality style has. Understand what energizes the person and how to handle stress and their preferred methods of communication, how they handle stress and their preferred method of communication. So if we understand others and how they think, we understand how they operate, we understand how they're wired, it's going to help us to build a better communication with them, but we can communicate the way they need us to. Let me give you a short example of that. When you talk to a choleric needs you to get to the bottom line. They don't want you to talk all day, give them a whole bunch of information, a whole lot of details. If they want more, they'll ask for more. Um, if you're talking to a melancholies want the detail. They want the background. How did you arrive at that? How did you get there? So I always pull a scripture. One of the scriptures is, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. Care about somebody else. Stop worrying about my point of view, how I see it. Cholerics can be my way or the highway. So now you're looking at, how am I honoring you? How can I serve you? How can I help you be the best version of you? And because I'm doing that, it's growing me. You have anything you want to say about that?
Oh, I love that. I love that because it brings up the idea of respect. It helps, and that's something that I'm actually growing in right now. Just learning to value people more, learning to respect people more, because that's an everyday journey, especially when you're a choleric melancholy like me.
Yes. Yes.
It's important to really understand, where people are coming from, and how do I, the scripture that I thought about, I just got one scripture, and so it's like in line, and you may have this too. It's Mark 10:31. And it says, the second commandment is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Yes.
And it says, there is no other commandment greater than these. To love God, that's the first one. But I'm going to focus on, that's Mark 12, 30 and 31. But to love your neighbor as yourself. So
Yes.
how do I embrace and respect? It brings up the notion of respect for me. How do I respect? And respect means to accept someone for who they are, even when they are different or you don't agree with them.
And that can happen so easily with the personalities, because a lot of times we disagree because we're different.
Yes.
And it's okay to be
Because we're different.
Yeah. You can adapt your approach, tailor your interactions to align with the preferences of the other person, and stop being about you. With the sanguine, engage, if you're talking to a sanguine or in dealing with the sanguine, engage in enthusiastic conversations and provide opportunities for social interaction. We sanguines need to be able to connect with people. That's how we're wired. We need, unfortunately, for some of you melancholies and phlegmatics, you may not like to be touched, even cholerics, but we're touchers, we're huggers. The pandemic, I'm telling you, has done me in that I can't just hug and kiss on people. With the choleric, be direct, focus on results, and respect their need for efficiency. They want the bottom line. They want you to be able to give them what they need, when they need it, and how they need it. Just don't give them a whole lot of headache. Just be direct. With the melancholy, you need to offer detailed information. I just said that, right? Detailed information. Acknowledge their need for precision. They need accuracy and precision, and provide space for them to reflect on whatever it is you're giving them or telling them. They don't want to answer you right away because they want to give you a thoughtful answer. With the phlegmatic, maintain a calm and patient demeanor and give them the time to process and make decisions. They don't like to be rushed. I always tell people the extroverted, the top two, the sanguine and the choleric, we think fast and quick, and we speak fast and quick, right? And the melancholy and phlegmatic are slow processes, and they're methodical, and they need to take their time to process the information. They're not going to spit it out. So you're trying to get them to give you an answer too quickly. They don't have it to give to you. They need the time. So you want to say anything about that, Dr. Sundra?
Yeah, no, I think what I thought about was, those of you who are listening, who are chatting, because we have a great chat going on right now. So we're trying to look at it and chat together too. I wanted to say, I wanted to ask the chatting audience, if you can put in the chat what your personality types is. You usually have two. So what your dominant and then what your secondary is. So if you can put that in there, because we have some great comments coming. Ross says, "Oh Lord, I pray for patience." She greatly values succinct conversation. Me too, Roz. I can't do a whole lot of extra. It's just like I need it, and I try to be patient. So that's some place that we'll continue to work on, especially
yes, Roz.
Personalities.
Girl, I'm going to give you a whole story. I'm going to let you know it's going to be funny and interesting, but sorry, you're not getting concise and succinct.
Not from a sanguine.
Not from a sanguine, and not from a melancholy. Melancholy will give you so much information. It's so funny because I have family members who are melancholies, and sometimes they'll be talking, but they're giving you a lot of detail, a lot of information. So you got to be ready for it, I tell you. All right, let's go to the next slide. Empathize. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Consider how they might perceive situations based on their personality type, and respond accordingly. Mm-hmm. Try to put yourself in other people's shoes. What do you say about that?
I had that down too, empathy and compassion. I think that's one of the tools that we take away today. How can we be empathetic? How can we put ourselves in the other person's shoes when we, again, try to get to yes, or if we're in a conflict or negotiating, so that there could be a win-win? Because you really do have to look at the other person's personality. I think we're seeing that if we do want to win together, if we do want to take away a gain and a win for both parties, whether you're, again, in ministry and business and personal relationships and professional relationships, because empathy helps us to respect each other. It helps us, and it's not easy for everybody to empathize. Everybody is not even wired to empathize, because we're wired to say my way. And that's why when we talk about surrender, that's where surrender comes in. And we surrender to empathy. We surrender to compassion, to say, okay, let me look at the other person's view before I go in and have to take the flag of being right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Chanel, I'm not sure I understand the question. Is there a link to these specific personality types? Is there a link, meaning?
Like, probably on your website.
On my website,
you can see
behind me is beyond2llc.com. You can see some of the some descriptions of the personalities there. I didn't know if you meant if each personality links to each other, so I wasn't really sure. Okay. All right, let's get to the next slide. Communicate openly. Discuss personality differences openly and non-judgmentally. That's a key. Non-judgmentally. Use I statements to express your own feelings and perspectives and encourage them to do the same. That's opening a dialogue, opening communication.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Yeah, my husband's on, and he's saying he loves this, but I know he probably really loves this because you have to be truthful and you have to communicate openly and you have to look at being non-judgmental, and I can be judgmental at times.
Yeah.
Part of that personality, I can, I judge things, and it's just, and that's why it's important for, again, like we said, for us to know ourselves, know thyself, to thy own self be true, and then
Yes.
to know others. Because
Yes.
that's how we can communicate effectively, when we can understand, like, okay, she's judgmental, that's a part of it. Okay, how do I now work with that?
Yes.
Or you know what I mean? Or then I realize, yeah, hey, I'm judgmental, let me look at how I can surrender. Let's go back to
Yes.
surrender. How can I surrender
Surrender.
right
Right.
now in this moment? Because surrender is about the moment. How can
Right.
I surrender when I see it and I become responsible for it? How do I surrender? So we're all
Right.
learning, we're all growing, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for this conversation tonight, even for me personally.
And the surrender allows for grace, right?
Yes.
For you to extend grace to somebody else when you surrender, because you're saying, okay, I know you're not like me, and I know I'm not like you. So I'm going to give you grace because I know you need this from me, and I may not be as able to give it to you right away, but just give me some time. Give me some time to work on it, Tiffany, if you're a driver, that means you're a choleric. Just so we toss that out for you. Okay. Conflict resolution and compromise. One, conflict resolution. When conflict arises, focus on the issue at hand. We talked about this, rather than attributing it solely to a personality difference. Sometimes people know that you are, as a choleric, your basic desire is to have control. And sometimes you tend to take control when nobody asks you to.
Oh yes.
I know.
Oh
I
yes.
do
It's
it all
right
the
there.
time. Right? But you can't just say, well, that's how I'm wired. That's how I'm
Yes.
wired. And therefore, since just go on, work around me. No, we have a responsibility that when we know there's something that we have to work on, that we need to work on that for ourselves and for others. So we can't just do it that way. Work together to find a common ground and solutions. That's the same thing you were talking about with the win-win, right? And number two, compromise and flexibility. Be willing to adapt and compromise in situations where personality differences come into play. Finding a middle ground can strengthen any relationship. It's a win-win. Roz says she's a choleric primary and outside of task-related initiatives are sanguine. I know that's right. That's my husband. He's choleric sanguine. I'm sanguine choleric. Did you want to say anything about this before I go to the final slide?
Yeah, I want to say Catherine says she thinks she's a perfect melancholy and peaceful phlegmatic. I know
Okay.
Catherine. Yeah, she's definitely a peaceful phlegmatic. She can take over. She can do all those things. She can mimic any of the personalities, and then the perfect melancholy. It's we're perfectionists. We like things done in order. So I would say that. And then I also, from what you just said, it is a responsibility that we have, and I think that's another takeaway that we have to. Oh, thanks, honey. My husband says, "Love you, Queen."
I had to put that up there.
Thank you. So, but I think that like he throws me off. I'm sorry, I got thrown off. Often does that. So back to business, my choleric business. Yeah, it builds. What you were saying is, I think it's a responsibility when you're looking at conflict resolution and compromising, and what we do in life and what we're up to. A lot of us are up to some really big things. It's really important to take responsibility because that
Yeah.
builds trust. And it
Yes.
also, what came up for me too, is it builds safety. And
Mm,
we need to feel safe in our relationships. We need to
we
feel
do.
safe in our, when we're in the marketplace working with people, because most of us are in the people business. Whether
Right.
you're in the marketplace, whether you're in banking, whether you're in construction, real estate development, whether you're in education, whether you're in any of the seven mountains of influence, entertainment, whether you're in ministry, in religion, whatever you're in, we're in the people business. So
Yeah.
when we know and when we can effectively resolve conflict and compromise, it helps build safety and also well-being. So I
Yeah.
think that's important.
But also, even if you're not, let's say you don't work, right? If you have children, You're in the
Yeah,
people business. You're
you're
in
in
the
the
people
people
business.
business.
If you have family members, you're in the people
Family,
business.
family. Yeah,
Because you
family
can't
is people
escape
business.
people. You can't escape people.
We are all in the people business.
Okay, so and then the final thing was I have my friend Dr. Celeste Owens here. Um, she always says surrender is doing God's will his way all the time. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell. Anything that we don't feel that we can handle, we should surrender it. We should give it over to God. We should allow God to orchestrate the change within because there are some things that we can work on ourselves, but there's some things that's bigger than us that we struggle with. We try to get better at, and we don't get a lot of traction. It's because we need to surrender it and say, Lord, it's yours. It's bigger than me. You got this. The other thing is I like it's not you, it's me. Stop looking at other people, their character defects. Look at your own. Pay attention to you. Like, the Bible talks about taking the log out of your eye. Stop trying to take the what is it? The word is coming in my head, speck.
Yes,
Speck out of somebody else's eye and take the log out of yours, right? And don't
that's
try to
good.
change other people. You can only change yourself. That's the only person you can change. You have any thoughts on that?
No, I love it. That's surrender. I don't know about you all in our listening audience, but I'm in a state of surrender. I've been surrendering all week long. I've been surrendering because it is about, for me, God's will, God's way all the time. And so when I see it and I'm able to become responsible for it, I'm like, I surrender. Let me step back so that I can see myself. I can see the log in my own eye instead of the speck in somebody else's. So
Yes.
I'm personally, that's what I want to say. I'm personally in that state of surrender right now, just surrendering, stepping back so I can see what's possible. And how
Yes.
exciting is that? What's possible?
What's
I can
possible?
see
That's
something else because now, again, I'm not looking at, the speck. I'm, getting the log out of my own eye. And what's possible? What's possible now? Wow, a
I'm,
world of possibility. And I have to say something else.
go ahead.
We have to, this is one thing you guys have to take this away. I've been working on this. We have to disappear the world of shoulds. Okay. What I mean by that is we have this whole thing, and I told you we're like an offensive culture. Like everything is offensive. We're entitled. We don't always respect everybody, because we're entitled. We don't want to be disappointed because something should be some way. And I want to challenge you. That's what the challenge I want to leave to you all. Let's disappear some shoulds this week, this month, the rest of the year. That it has to be like that. It should be. That's not true. And it's not the truth. And you can actually disappear what should or should not be in your life. Isn't that powerful?
Yes.
I have a friend, I'm
Love
going to
it.
be doing an upcoming show. She has a whole world about being unmessable with. Her name is Jocelyn Herman Saccio. She talks about being unmessable with and in that disappearing what should be, because it's not always
Yes.
the truth. You know what
I
I mean?
love that.
Isn't that
Love that.
powerful?
It
I
is
want to be
powerful.
unmessable with in every area. That's what I'm up to.
Yes. Well, I want to know what you're up to. Since you said that, since we're coming to a wrap up this, can you believe it's been an hour
I
almost?
know, I love it. I've been
It's
enjoying it.
bananas, right? It just every time I'm with you, the time just flows. And you talk a lot with me, where before I was talking your head off. Now we talk together.
Yes, we
All
talk
right, so
together.
tell the audience what's coming up for you.
Yeah, so we have some amazing things coming up. We have some amazing programs coming up. We have Pepperdine University. We have the Certificate in Leadership Innovation and Executive Wellbeing program coming up at Pepperdine University. So I want you to join me in LA. And I need you to get your registrations in if you are interested in coming, because seating is limited and it is filling up. We are excited about it. This is a partnership that I have with Pepperdine. I was blessed, and I'm so glad they trust me to design a 2-day certificate program. It's a continuing education program where we really equip leaders to cultivate extraordinary leadership functioning. We talk about self-care. And I know Roz was in our first cohort. She's on the line today. And there's a whole new era of disruption and transformation. And this program is amazing. And so not only do you get the certificate program, all the learning, all the amazing things, you're with amazing colleagues. I'm telling you, it's life changing. She can probably put something in the chat because she's like, she's an amazing, like our #1 grad. But you also get a certificate in leadership from Pepperdine University, which is one of the top organizational leadership companies in the country. So if you're interested in building, your resume and meeting some amazing people, join us in LA, October 6th and 7th. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be empowering. You'll come away with your certificate in leadership, and you will be equipped even to pass this information on to others. And it's just going to be amazing. So we invite you. You can click right now and click on the registration little icon there. And also you can go to our website, www.drsundra.com, drsundra.com. And then we have another event coming up, which we are so excited about. And this actually was birthed out of the certificate program, and it is our signature leadership program. This is aside from Pepperdine University, and it is the Leadership Mastermind Retreat. And this is a retreat where it's October 26th. It is going to be fabulous. It's going to be at the Post Oak Hotel. Those of you who know Uptown Houston, it's going to be a fabulous retreat for leaders, a one-day retreat where we're going to engage, and there's going to be amazing people in the room. And again, seating is limited, so click on that register button, and you can also go to our website, www.drsundra.com. But we need a space for well-being. We need a space to come together, and we're going to be living it up in Houston with this mastermind retreat. We're going to have masterminds from all over the country come together, and it's just going to be powerful. There's something powerful when you have, we call it social context learning, when you have like that many amazing, powerful people in the room, like the network, your life changes, your network changes. Your Rolodex changes, along with the spiritual empowerment, the support as a leader, because again, who takes care of the leaders that take care of everybody else? So this is a time for leaders to come away, to move away. And what is this meant for? It's meant for leaders, C-suite leaders. If you're in a C-suite, CEOs, COOs, all of that. It's a leadership retreat. If you're in organizational leadership, we want you to come and be with us. It's going to be amazing, and we are so excited. So meet us in Houston on October 26th, or you can do both. You can meet us in Los Angeles, October 6th and 7th for the Pepperdine Leadership Certificate Program.
Yes. Awesome. You are a boss, girl. That's what happens when you're a choleric melancholy. You get all the things done. Okay, so what I want to do is, first of all, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for participating in this conversation. I think it was so fruitful. I think people got a lot from it. I want to put up a quick little video of next week's show. So that's our show for tonight. I thank you all for joining Personality Speaking, where the tea is always hot. Again, we air every Wednesday live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I thank you, Dr. Sundra Ryce Hardy, for joining us. You need to come back with your husband, because I want to know what it's like to live with a choleric woman.
Yes.
We need him to come back and talk about
that. He will love that. You
I would
just
love
stay
to do
when.
that.
He will love that.
I'm going to set up a show, and I want
everybody all the information that they need.
That's what we want, the 411.
He'll give you the tea.
Thank you, sis. I love you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.